all it is understanding how money works, how leverage works, what kind of areas you want to buy in, basic jobs, cost segregation, accelerated depreciation, how you keep from paying taxes, how you're able to go out here and borrow money, create value rapidly through the BRRRR method. I have a BRRRR group that with almost 60,000 people in it. And I'm showing all these people in my YouTube channel, Nate Barger. I don't mind giving away for free, but I'm going to show them step-by-step the spreadsheets that we use. I got about 71 modules, step-by-step, going to break down every process. Basic jobs is a big one.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I am your host, Yona Weiss. As always, it is great to be joining you here today. I'm actually coming off a fresh 10-day break from internet and social media and everything. So I'm really excited to be starting back this week with our guest, Nate Barger, who is out of Cincinnati, and he's doing amazing things in real estate. Incredible story. I'd love to give you guys a little context and then just jump right into Nate's story. I mean, he's doing amazing things. Like I said, got a great partner in Mike Ely, who we interviewed on this podcast. If you go back many moons ago, check that episode out. But Nate, you have done a tremendous amount in a relatively short amount of time. So let's just dig right in. Like, where did this come from? How did this come from? And you didn't have a conventional start into the business.
No, man, I did not, man. Well, thank you, first of all, for everything you share, everything you do, and for having me on. And yeah, man, so, I started off like 88% of millionaires broke. So, 88, according to Fidelity, 88% of millionaires are self-made. And so I started off broke. I didn't go down the conventional path. I grew up in a normal alcoholic blue-collar family, and so I just was a little bit different. I ended up going to prison, drug dealer at a young age, and going to military school when I was 13. Grew up in a very poor neighborhood. My parents worked. My dad worked, though. I guess it didn't see when it was, it was called white flight. Like all the white people were leaving. And so we stayed. And so I'm grateful for that, because that gave me a lot of skills that transitioned over to really just hustling hard, self-education. I went to prison twice when I was younger for selling drugs. And, at the age of 29, man, I never had a job. I never had a job in my life. So, well, I did. Yeah, I worked at rallies for 2 weeks, but I didn't like that too much. And I was walk past the drug dealers every day, and I'd be like, man, I was making $4.25 an hour. It was minimum wage. If you guys know how old I am now. So, so, man, I just cried out one day to God, and I said, man, I really just needed something different, because I had millions of dollars, but I felt just really suicidal almost in a way, man. Just really depressed.
Yeah, it wasn't coming from the right sources. I mean, you obviously recognize that at a certain point.
Yep. So, man, he showed, I pulled out the computer. I quickly put numbers together. I was always good with numbers, and put together a business plan to do real estate. And I just met Mike Ely. This is back maybe 2003, 2002 at a nightclub. And I said, man, Mike, we want him to come around a nightclub. He was like, man, I can't do that, man. I'll be in all kinds of trouble. And so he bowed out of that, but he had got his license. So we started doing real estate and buying and fixing and flipping properties. And then, we kind of went our own ways about 2005, 2006. And man, I just took off. They were doing the ninja loans back then. You could I remember one of the times the underwriter coming back and saying, well, how do we know you own the sole proprietorship? I said, what do you need? And he said, well, a business card that says you own it. I'm like, well, okay, I can get that done. So I had a business card that said owner, Nate Barger, and we rocked it out, man. So it's been a heck of a journey, but through all that, man, I didn't really understand the analysis, everything that you teach. I didn't understand real estate cycles. I was a drug dealer, and I just got thrown out into the fire and started doing real estate, and I was buying. And within about 5 years, I was a multimillionaire, and I had 250 units, and I had 2 big industrial buildings that were single tenant, and I was bankrupt. So I ended up losing everything in 2009, 2010, because my tenants defaulted on me. Now, the residential did pretty good. Mm-hmm. The residential actually did pretty good, but I did get hurt on some of the buildings. I didn't know what kind of buildings to buy. I was just buying everything that was cheap because I didn't really, have any money. And I was going and fixing and adding tremendous value to these properties and doing cash out. I remember my first year, I did almost 400,000 cash out. Went to my accountant and I said, man, I'm worried about all these taxes I'm going to pay. And he starts laughing at me and he says, Nate, they're loans. You don't owe any taxes. And I was like, I was elated. I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? And, so I really didn't even realize at the time how gifted, what my gifts and talents were. So sometimes you go through and you're just naturally good at stuff. I imagine like Michael Jordan could just dunk the basketball. I could not. I mean, I'm 6'3" now. If you lower the rim to 6 foot, I might be able to get it in. But
but what you did was, just going back to that time when you started out, money was cheap, right? Financing was really cheap, and you ended up being over leveraged, right? And ended up having a lot of money owed to the banks, and with tenants default like that, like you said, like a lot of people during that downturn went bankrupt, literally lost everything. So now, what were the key factors that helped you to rebuild? Because now we're talking 10 years later already, and you've built it back up. I mean, thank God you have a lot of units. I don't know exactly the number count, over 1,000 units currently, and looking to buy more hotels, which is at your current, major, I would say, focus. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So, we're still buying a lot of apartments, but what really helped me out was I just didn't know anything else. Nobody was going to give me a job. I had 4 felonies. I was fat and ugly. So nobody was going to give me a job. And so I'm still fat and ugly, but nobody will still give me a job. But guess what? I created my own job. So I was just forced to figure it out. I had a wife and a kid at home, a newborn, and I just got married. So what was I going to do? Go back to them and say, hey, man, sorry, guys, we're bankrupt. And, so I just kept digging. I'm real analytical. So I dug into the paperwork. I had, luckily, I had private investors that even going through bankruptcy, I had all my paperwork straight where they were covered. See, what hurt me was the big industrial buildings that I had cross-collateralized with my residential. I had buildings with $20,000 mortgages on them, and them tenants called and said, hey, Nate, man, I hate to tell you this, but I am not going to be able to pay you. I had some 90-day, 30-day net accounts that defaulted on me. One of them went into bankruptcy. They owe me a lot of money, and I'm going bankrupt. So what do you do at that point? I had 2 of them happen almost simultaneously. And I had about $500,000 liquid. So I went back in. I renovated one of the warehouses. I used about $240,000 doing that. And then that tenant, man, paid 1 or 2 payments and defaulted on me. So it was just, it was brutal, man. There was nobody in Cincinnati to lease. And then I had all these houses that were coming back that were, I didn't understand at the time square footage, and 2,500 square foot houses that were built in, 1890, 1910. And when them came vacant, because those people were losing their job, I remember watching the news and Vernon Manor was shut down. I was thinking, man, I got 3 tenants that live there and or that work there. You're just losing all these people quick. And then you just don't have enough money to renovate them. They're not like, $1,200 turns, man. These are, all these tenants have been in there for 3 or 4 years. You don't understand how to capitalize reserves. I mean, what is a reserve? You're jumping into this stuff. You're new. You don't understand it. And so I got hurt, man. But I fought. I got in there and I read. I understood all about what the banks were doing. Half of these banks that were sending me letters out didn't own the mortgages. They couldn't prove that they owned them. So the ones that worked with me, I worked with them. I ended up hooking back up with Mike Ely. Said, man, I need your help, brother. And we went on a rampage, man, and just started negotiating with the banks, buying the mortgage notes. So I came out of bankruptcy in June of 2013. And by December of 2015, I had enough money to retire, brother. It was that quick.
Wow.
Yona?
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest factor that really, pushed you and drove you from that 2013 bankruptcy to 2015 to have enough money to retire on?
Well, I didn't have any credit. I didn't have any money. So it was right now, everything that I thought I had, everything that I didn't have every day, and chasing down what I did not have and saying, how am I going to make this work? And quite honestly, just having a great partner in Mike Ely and me pushing him and him pushing me, because I know he had some other opportunities where some guys wanted to bring him in and give him like kind of like a salary. I was like, nah, Mike, man, we can do this. Believe it in yourself. And sometimes to the point where you're just delusional. Maybe I was just delusional enough to believe in myself that we were going to push through and we were going to make it.
Yeah, but it's not a delusion if you make it a reality, right? I mean, you made it a reality.
Every millionaire fails, man. That's part of the journey. There you go. There you go. So it was just keep pushing. Don't give up. Every day, wake up. I mean, people say, did you ever feel like giving up? I said, man, like 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day because it's brutal. I mean, you're literally driving out of your house and you're trying to figure out how to bring more money back. It's hard. So that's why I'm coming out with this online course to show people how I did it in 5 years, kind of really good, but then things I didn't understand, how I was able to do it in 2 years and how everybody can do it in 5 years and become a millionaire. It's not that hard, man.
What do you not to give away the whole course over here, right here and now, but what, one of some of the key things there that are, necessary. I mean, obviously you talk about believing in yourself, you talk about the drive, the determination, having good partners, obviously is a key, I would say, for a lot of people. But, if you give a quick kind of freebie to all the listeners over here, what's going to make it happen?
Nah, so man, I give it all out on YouTube for free. I mean, we make a lot of money in real estate. So we got over $200 million worth of hotels under contract right now. So I don't need the money like YouTube, but I'm going to do a very cheap course, but people got to pay because if it's free, then they don't value it. Mm-hmm. But really all it is understanding how money works, how leverage works, what kind of areas you want to buy in, basic jobs, cost segregation, accelerated depreciation, how you keep from paying taxes, how you're able to go out here and borrow money, create value rapidly through the BRRRR method. I have a BRRRR group that with almost 60,000 people in it. And I'm showing all these people in my YouTube channel, Nate Barger. I don't mind giving away for free, but I'm going to show them step-by-step the spreadsheets that we use. I got about 71 modules, step-by-step, going to break down every process. Basic jobs is a big one. Mm-hmm. What's the multiplier on the basic jobs? Why are you buying in this area? Where is this area projected to go to? Why is it going to go there? And that has a lot to do with basic jobs. If you understand basic jobs and then multiple demand drivers, you don't want to just go into one that says, oh, I got this basic job. Like me and Mike were looking at a hotel down in some part of, what's it called? Tupelo, Mississippi, or I think it was Tupelo, Mississippi. And they had a Toyota plant and that was it. So if Toyota plant goes away, guess what? Stay away from them markets. Yeah, stay away from them markets, man. So it's all analytical data on what's going to help you succeed. Yeah, and where the market's going.
A lot of it's
where the market's going.
Any type of real investment needs data to back it up, right? To make sure that it makes sense. If you don't have the data to back it up, it's just kind of throwing a dart at the wall and just kind of throwing your money to the wind, right?
Yep.
And I think that's probably what you did and what you experienced in your first rendition of the real estate game.
Man, absolutely, man. I did. I was, why are you buying this property? It's cheap. Well, that doesn't necessarily, because look, you don't make your money in cash flow. Cash flow allows you to hang on to the asset as it goes up in value. $160,000 property that can get 5% appreciation a year will be worth $204,000 in 5 years. So I want you to target them areas, but I want you to know what the construction cost is in them areas. And I want to make sure you're well below rebuild costs. And I want to make sure that people are going to build in that area. Why? Because we got manufacturing. You got to maybe a 9 to 1 for every job that comes in. You're going to create 9 more jobs. For every manufacturing job that leaves, you're going to lose 9. So you got to pay attention to that stuff.
What would you say? I mean, just a kind of random question, but since you brought it up about the lumber costs going skyrocketing over the last few months, how is that affecting?
Well, it's not just lumber. Yeah, it's not. It's great. It's great. You own a massive amount of property. What do you think is going to go to the value as it costs more to build? Right now in Cincinnati, where a lot of our multifamilies are, we have a shortage of 28,000 workforce housing. So workforce housing, people can afford $1,200 a month. A lot of our units are C property, 2 bedrooms that rent for $875 to $1,100 a month. So our rents are going to continue to climb. I would say get out here. The government, the feds need inflation. They cannot grow the GDP anymore through goods and services. They have to do it through inflation. That's the way they service the debt. So I think the government is not going to, they're going to let inflation run rampant for a while. And I think that you're seeing that across all the sector. I just got a call from my HVAC guy, say, hey, Nate, you may want to grab a bunch of units just so you know. HVAC units are going to go up. They're saying 25% in the next 60 days.
Wow.
And labor, Man, we're giving all our guys like raises all the time. Like, I mean, construction guys, $20 used to be a good pay. Now they're 30, 35 an hour, man. Plus benefits. You're at almost 50 an hour. That's $400 a day, man. You think about that. You call a company and they're 100 an hour. They're 800 a day. So, it's supply and demand. But then you have to watch with your population growth. You got 81 million millennials. You got 78 million baby boomers. They're coexisting together. Then you got the Gen Z coming up behind them. You got me. You're a millennial, right? But I'm a Gen X, or what am I? Gen X. I don't know how many of us are 40 something. But there's a lot of need for housing. There's just not a lot of it right now, and then interest rates are really cheap.
Right. Let me ask you, changing the subject a little bit. I know you focused a lot on hotels. You just kind of threw in there. You got 200 million in hotels under contract currently. You guys are going after that very hardcore. Why the hotels? I mean, right now we saw the COVID the past year. Hospitality got hit really hard, and we're seeing a lot of the hotels just kind of going out of business. A lot of them are being repurposed into multifamily or into other things. What are you guys doing with it? Are you buying them to repurpose them? Are you buying them for hotels and to continue them? What's
buying them buying them for hotels. I mean, Warren Buffett, famous quote, man, when others are greedy, be fearful. So underwrite the areas. If you have an area that has 700 rooms in the comp set, and you can look at the demand drivers in there, and you got multiple demand drivers, and about 70, 80% of those jobs are going to come back, or those travelers are going to come back, you got to underwrite that. And if you have an area that has 700 rooms, and let's say 200 of them rooms are going out of the market comp set, you can project what's going to happen to your occupancy and your average daily rate. Mm-hmm. Right now, you're buying these hotels for half price. And I'm talking Hilton, Marriott's. We're buying things that don't need any major renovations. And we're picking them up for they're saying, hey, just take over the payment. We're bringing enough reserves to get through 30 months of burn. Mm. We're being very cautious and very conservative, and just the returns are amazing on them. If we can, the main thing is, what is your burn? How much money are you going to burn? How long do you think the burn is going to be for? How is this thing going to come out? And what's going to bring it out? So as you mentioned, you got to look at the new jobs that are coming in, the multiple demand drivers, and what's going out. So I love to track the ones, like we got a group that we track that's going in, buying the big box, 300 rooms, and splitting half of them into veteran housing and other half into hotels. So we you just had 150 rooms that got lost. Mm-hmm. So now, even if you're operating at, 45%, you're going to be at 52%, let's just say, naturally. That's without the market even coming back.
Right.
Can you make it at 52%? How do you scale your operations? We have a very tight operations. If we're below 40%, then the general manager and the director of sales have to pick up desk duty. It's becoming efficient. Then you got from 40% to 50%. We just got models where we're operating bare bones to get through this thing and hit our investor returns.
Wow. So do you have any operational, like hotels that are currently operational that you're running?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me and Mike got hotels. We got, and our group has $1.8 billion worth of them. And, like I said, we're buying heavy, man. We're going down on them right now because we think also with inflation, as the average daily rate goes up, and then hotels never got a chance to compress the cap rates because of COVID. We're still projecting 8.5 caps on them. But realistically, when you come out of COVID, man, this may compress down because people are starving for yields. There's nowhere for them to get a 6.5% yield anymore, leveraged yield. And so we're able to get into these deals, quite honestly, with $1 million, $1.5 million each hotel, where typically would have cost you $4 to $5 million.
Interesting. Wow. So, and you mentioned that you are like having to assume some of those loans, right? So you're actually having to come off. Are they like difficult loans to assume? I mean, the fact that financing is really cheap, is that a challenge for you? It's still working out.
Well, what we're doing is we're looking for the CMBS loans that have failed. Right. We're looking for the banks that have failed. We're looking for the life insurance companies where the people just didn't scale back operations or they didn't have enough reserves. And we're coming in and saying, hey, we got a strong balance sheet. We got a strong operation team. We'll come in. We'll assume this note. We'll catch up the back payments. We'll bring in some reserves. We'll make this a good loan again. But we want to ask for maybe 12 months or 24 months IO. We want to ask for 6 months of deferment. We want to create a win-win with every bank. Some of them were even coming in with the owners, and the owners don't have the capital. We say, hey, look, we can keep you in a deal. We're going to need majority. Then we sometimes you go back to Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, and you have to bring the franchise fee current if you're buying the whole thing. But if they let you get added on to it, I mean, ultimately, they want their fees. They want to see this hotel succeed and not go in disrepair. So
Right.
there's a lot to it. You can't just jump into one like I did back in, 04, 05. You got to know what kind of pips are going to be due, when they're going to be due, how you're going to fund them. But if you go to buy a hotel right now, you're only going to get probably 50% financing on it. So even a $10 million hotel, you got to bring $5 million. Right. But if that $10 million hotel was a $17 million hotel pre-COVID, and I can get in at par and just bring $1 million, $1.2 million for operations and for burn over the next 30 months, then we stand to make a lot of money when that comes back. I mean, some of these we're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 11x returns.
Mm-hmm. How would someone who doesn't have any experience get into this?
I mean, hotels are really hard because, I got a partner who BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. And I got to tell you, man, like I'm bold. But when he started talking about doing these hotels, man, I almost wanted to throw up because it makes you uncomfortable. So get you a partner like Mike Ely and somebody like me who's going to challenge and ask all the questions. But really, man, it was partnering with a good management team. We created what's called the hospitality group to run all of our stuff through. And multifamily is really a progression of buying single family, 4-family, 20 unit, 50 unit, 100 unit. Hotels is a lot harder.
Yeah.
But get out here, partner with somebody, JV with somebody if you really want to get into it. We offer JV on a lot of our deals. And JV with somebody who has experience and then learn the business inside out and learn and you see what they're doing and how you can do it would be my advice to somebody. Even if you're just investing capital and you're a limited partner, say, hey, I'm going to be a limited partner, but look, man, I really want to see the operations every month. A lot of guys are going to say, look, I don't have time to teach you, but Mike may be coming out with the hotel course as well. So, that would be beneficial, and if he does, but it probably is at least another year out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely keep that out on the lookout for that. Well, Nate, I want to transition here into the final 4, right? These are 4 questions we ask all of our guests. And the first question for you, which is an interesting question. We said, what's the worst job you ever had? But you already mentioned that you really never had a job.
I worked at Rally's. That had to be the worst job. I was there 2 weeks though.
So let me change this question a little bit. I'll customize this question for you because, having been, I guess, a drug dealer and, unfortunately,
a pharmacist.
A pharmacist.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, what was it? I mean, you got drawn into that at a young age, right? And unfortunately, it took you down the wrong path. Had to go to prison, kind of readjust like that. If you could change that situation, like, would you go back there and change the situation?
Not at all. I mean, I learned so much from that experience, and it gives you retrospect. I remember being in solitary confinement, and I was in there fighting, and I was soul searching, and I was like, I always wanted what's the red Ferrari, and I thought, man, all women and alcohol and red Ferrari, that's got to be happiness. But then, my spirit came to me and said, hey, what if you could be happy now? I said, I just was happy. I just became happy in solitary confinement. And every day since, I've been happy. I wake up happy. Life is good. What are you going to complain about? You lose somebody, be grateful for the people you still got. You lose your left arm, be grateful you still got your right arm. It's all perspective. So no, I wouldn't change that for anything, man, because that's what helped me push through and focus on the goal and not the circumstance. Doesn't matter if you're running through razor wire, if somebody's pouring salt on you, doesn't matter. Don't lessen your goal because it's hard. Just keep your goal there and keep pushing through, no matter what you got to deal with.
Beautifully said. Love that. Thank you for that. Let's move to the second question here, which is, what's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift? So it's totally changed your perspective.
Definitely the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen McCovey, I believe. Mike gave me that book, and I was a drug dealer at the time. And it changed my mind because I realized I could do things. I could control things. I could focus on things, become very laser-like focused. So definitely, if you guys haven't read that, get out and read that book. Great book. But don't just read it. Make it become part of your mind. Now, I will tell you that's a little tough in relationships because my wife said something. It's hard because relationship-wise, you've got to be a little different. So that's something I'm working on even 20 years later.
Yeah. I mean, that's a book that you could reread 100 times and still come out with so much from it, because until you really change, right? And real growth is growth upon growth and real change upon change, right?
Yep, absolutely.
You become great. You've become, a great role model, or you've taken on a certain, character trait and you've become refined, you can refine that even further, right? The more you put mindset into that, more power of thought into that. It's incredible what you can do with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, brother.
So what's a third question for you? What is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Man, I think the one that I struggle with the most is I don't know, still being healthy and working out and transitioning my body to where I could go rock climbing or so that is the one thing that I really mentally have to find a way to push through. I'm a vegetarian. I am the second fattest vegetarian in the world. No, I'm just kidding. But it's hard, and so that's something that I really want to work on as I get closer to 50. Is becoming healthy and finding a way to do that.
Yeah, that's very, very good. I'm sure you will. Right? It's all, like you said, it's all about the mindset. It's really just kind of deciding. Just decide one day I'm going to do it, and just do it.
That's it. That's it.
As hard as
today
it is.
Could be the day.
Today is the day.
Could be the day. Today is the day. There you go. There you go.
Fourth and final question for you is, what does success mean to you?
Success is really, once you've reached all the financial stuff, and then you really begin to find what success is. And it's helping others change their lives. It's giving back. It's, watching people that otherwise would have struggled and giving them the knowledge to succeed. Because ultimately, when you're on your deathbed, make decisions from your deathbed. You won't have many regrets. And most people on their deathbed, they regret, not taking more chances. So I don't know if I'll have that regret, but I just want to make sure I touch as many people and show people how to become financially secure. Because that's important to me, because I watched my father work 43 years on a railroad, never went on vacation as a kid, living paycheck to paycheck, water getting cut off, no food, at 5 or 6 years old, feeling like I had to be a provider because we didn't have no money. All I heard was my mom and dad. We never have any money. I didn't realize it was because my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was an alcoholic. But you don't realize that as a kid because you just think that's what adults do. And so ultimately, I want to help people change their financial outlook and not feel like, well, I can't do it because I grew up poor. Listen, man, stop it, man. Take charge of your life, become financially secure, not for you, but for your kids and great-great-grandkids.
Amazing. Well, I wish you a lot of continued success with that, right? Pushing people in the right direction and bringing people to the right path for that financial security. Well, it's been a pleasure, Nate. Where can our listeners find you? How can our listeners find you or reach out to you, Nate?
Hey, thank you, brother. My pleasure, man. So, I got a Facebook group, BRRR Invest. You can go on there. We got about 60,000 members. I think it's 59,000. We'll cross 60,000 this week. Nate Barger, I got a YouTube channel, just started in January. Go in there. I got a lot of videos that can show you how to retire in 5 years and why you should buy and hold right now instead of buying and flipping, and why you end up making about $2 million more over 5 years. Amazing. So it's called The $1 Million Mistake is one of my videos, and I break it down analytically for you.
All right. We'll put that in the show notes over there, the YouTube channel, Nate Barger, and we'll make sure that our listeners can find you. And it really has been a pleasure. Love to spend the time together, and it's always great chatting with you.
Hey, Yona, I can't wait to meet you in person, brother. Hey, thank you for everything you do, man. And I love to have you on one of my modules because you're the best at what you do, man. I appreciate you, brother, and everything you do for everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to all our listeners, remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.